Dr. Nina Savelle-Rocklin, psychoanalyst and eating disorder expert. And today we're going to talk about what happens when you quit sugar for 8 weeks. Many people expect this will be something of a sugar detox and they're going to lose weight. They're going to feel more energetic, maybe even stop binge eating. But what if the real transformation isn't about your body, but your mind? So today I'm going to unpack the physical, emotional, and psychological effects of cutting out sugar. And we're going to explore why your relationship with sugar may be less about food and more about feelings. By the end of this show, you're going to have a clearer understanding of sugar cravings and learn how to create a healthier, more balanced relationship with sugar that doesn't involve restriction or deprivation. So, what actually does happen to your body when you stop eating sugar for 8 weeks? The truth is, the physical changes might not be as dramatic as you might expect. In the first week or two, many people experienced they think of it as withdrawal symptoms, like they get headaches, maybe more irritable, tired, even mood swings. But it's your body adjusting to not having that quick energy fix that you give it when you have something sugary. And after that, yeah, you might have more stable energy levels, fewer blood sugar highs and lows, sometimes less bloating, less inflammation. The improvements that we feel after cutting out sugar are often related to how our bodies respond to changes in blood sugar regulation, insulin levels and just overall dietary habits, rather than a detox effect. These changes, they are not about a detox. We don't detox from sugar. There's no magical sugar detox that purifies your body. I'm sorry, there's just not. When people talk about detox, they usually mean eliminating toxins or harmful substances from their bodies to feel healthier, more energized, or cleansed. This concept just suggests that by cutting out certain foods, like sugar, they're going to get rid of built up toxins. Guess what? Here's the reality. The human body already has a natural detoxification system. Your liver, your kidneys are incredibly efficient at processing and eliminating excess sugars or whatever it is that's going on in your body, because you don't need to cleanse yourself from sugar the way diet culture often suggests. The idea that we need to detox through special diets or practices, it is scientifically untrue. Our organs perform this function regardless of our dietary choices. Pretty amazing, right? The human body is quite amazing. But you know what? It is a very lucrative idea, sugar detox or detox of any kind. It is a very lucrative idea for the wellness industry, the $60 billion diet industry, and the wellness industry overall is some multiples of that. It's crazy how much money people are making out of selling the idea of a detox. So yeah, cutting out sugar will not transform your health overnight. Instead, change is more about finding balance and moderation. And by the way, I was thinking about this time I went, another trick-or-treating story. I have a lot of sugar-related trick-or-treating stories from when I was going with my kids. I remember I once invited this woman I didn't really know. She was new to the area, and I invited her trick-or-treating. And as we're walking along, she's like, how can parents allow their kids to eat sugar? Don't they know it's toxic? They're giving their kids poison. She was, of course, going to collect her kids' candy afterwards and throw it away, because in her mind, she was throwing away poison and toxins. Naturally, by the way, what do you think that kid was doing the whole time? Sneaking candy. Absolutely. In fact, this kid was so smart. She carried her teddy bear with her. She's like, I'm just going to bring my teddy because it's a new experience. Well, what would she do? She made a hole in her teddy bear and she put candy inside. My daughter told me about that later. Oh, okay. Where there's a will, there's a way. All right, so society plays a huge role in how we view sugar. And on the one hand, we're encouraged to indulge. How are we encouraged? Well, there's all these images of happiness and celebration linked to birthday cakes, holiday desserts, special occasions, wedding cakes. It's all about, cakes and dessert and sugary stuff. That's how we celebrate. Or Halloween, or boy, here's a good one. And this one always gets to me. At the dentist office, right? The pediatric dentist. What do they have as a treat for those kids after they get their teeth cleaned or whatever, have a checkup? A bowl of candy. Talk about creating your own business. But anyway, like, what a message. Here's a candy. Anyway, so yes, it's a reward. It's a celebration. It's all of those things. So that's on the one hand. On the other hand, we're told sugar is bad. An extreme, like the woman I was telling you about, sugar is toxic. It's poison. Sugar is unhealthy, we're told. It is something to be avoided if we want to be fit, if we want to be attractive, because according to the diet industry, being fit in the standard that they give, which is weight-based, is to be attractive. So this conflicting message creates such a push-pull dynamic that it can make sugar even more desirable. Because when something is both celebrated and forbidden, it becomes more tempting. It's that sense of, oh, I shouldn't, but I want to and I deserve it, which can make sugar seem irresistible. So this is where things get interesting. Cutting out sugar has actually got a more significant impact on your mind than on your body. So at first, if you give up sugar, or say you give up sugar for 8 weeks, you feel empowered. You feel proud of yourself. You resisted sugar. Sugar has no control over you. You have control over sugar. But after a few weeks, you might find that you just can't stop thinking about sweets, desserts, candies, cookies, all the things with sugar. It can feel like sugar is everywhere, taunting you. Eat me, just have a bite. Eventually, you might be unable to resist and you end up binging or overeating on sweets. You might even feel out of control, ashamed, and frustrated and feel like, oh, I'm back to square one. So how does this happen? It's because of the deprivation binge cycle, the restrict binge cycle, the diet binge cycle. It's all the same cycle. When you tell yourself, I can't have this, you create a sense of scarcity. And our minds are wired, so to speak, to seek out what we believe we're being denied. We want the thing that we think we can't have. That is why the experience of deprivation or the anticipation of deprivation always makes us want something more. The more you tell yourself you can't have something, the more you want it. And of course, this is not just about sugar. It is a universal psychological response to restriction. So think about your own life for a moment. Just take a moment, think about your own life. Have you ever tried to avoid something, whether it's sugar or food or something other than that, only to obsess over it even more? It's like, I know many people who were told they couldn't watch TV. I was told I couldn't watch TV. I could only watch an hour of TV a day when I was a kid. So you can bet I watched that hour of TV, although there were some times when maybe I wouldn't have wanted to watch it, but I always wanted to watch more TV because I was told I couldn't watch TV. So what do you think happened when I went to college? Oh, that TV was on all the time. I totally binged on TV because I was told I couldn't have it. So that's another example of how when we are restricted, we don't learn to regulate ourselves, first of all. And secondly, we want the thing we are told we can't have. So this deprivation binge cycle just shows how restriction backfires, makes you feel out of control when you finally give in, because when you finally give in, it's usually that all or nothing. oh, I can't have it after this, so I might as well have a lot of it. I'm going on that diet tomorrow, so I might as well have all the sugar that I can today. Now, many people describe being addicted to sugar, but the reality is what we experience as addiction is actually an emotional attachment. It feels physical. I know. It feels physical, but ultimately it's not. Um, Sugar provides comfort, pleasure, even a sense of relief over stress, painful, difficult feelings. It comforts us, it distracts us. Yes, it also activates our brains. Now we're talking about the brain, not the mind. It activates our brain's reward system, and it releases dopamine, which makes us feel good. Right? That's part of the dopamine theory of food addiction. But hold on, because guess what? Anything that gives us pleasure also activates dopamine. That doesn't make it addictive. Addictive substances hijack our brain's reward system by flooding it, not just activate, hijack. They flood it. Our brains get flooded with dopamine, causes intense pleasure, which leads eventually to tolerance, which means we need to do more and more, have more and more and more and more of the thing to get the same initial effect, causes cravings and compulsive use and overuse and abuse as our brains adapt to these surges of dopamine and need more and more and more and more for the same effect, right? That's true. What I just described is what happens when people take drugs, okay? But unlike addictive substances like drugs, sugar doesn't overwhelm our system, and here is why. First of all, there's the intensity and consistency. Like drugs like cocaine or heroin, they cause massive spikes in dopamine. Sugar, on the other hand, causes a much milder increase in dopamine. It's less intense. It doesn't overwhelm our brains the same way that drugs do. It's also like with addiction, there should be a chemical dependency. True addiction involves physical dependency. And when you are physically dependent on something, you get withdrawal symptoms when that substance is removed. So although you might crave sugar and you might feel uncomfortable cutting it out and you might want it, people who are, eating sugar don't experience those severe withdrawal systems that people on drugs do. Sometimes people on drugs have such severe withdrawal, it's life-threatening. It's an addictive substance that affects your brain. Sugar is not the same thing. Also, with addiction, you have tolerance, which means you need more and more and more and more and more of the substance to get the same kind of result. So with sugar, you may crave more of it if you restrict it, but your brain does not develop the same kind of escalating tolerance that happens with drugs. So sugar can trigger dopamine release and feel rewarding. So does listening to music. So does laughing. So does having fun with your friends. So does, anything that makes you happy releases dopamine, but it doesn't create the same level of dependence and withdrawal as true addictive substances do. And it doesn't lead to destructive behaviors typically associated with addiction, right? Most people are not like, I can't go to work. I can't function. I need my brownies. Can't go to work, can't meet my friends. It's just, now you might be using food to avoid, if you have social anxiety, to avoid certain things, or you may be so full and miserable from eating because you're resolving something emotional by eating that you might not want to go see people, or you might use that as an excuse, but that's not the same as being physically incapable of functioning to your normal level because you're on sugar. So sugar does not dramatically alter our brains in the same way as addictive drugs. We don't need increasing amounts of sugar to achieve the same result, unlike with drug addiction. So sugar is a natural food. By the way, sugar is a food, not a drug. It is a food that our bodies can process, unlike drugs, which are artificial. And the question I always get is, oh, but what about those studies that show that rats, when given the choice between sugar and heroin or sugar and cocaine, they go for the sugar? Of course they go for the sugar. Sugar is food. Rats are motivated by survival. Rats will go to the food every time. They will go for sugar because they're not motivated to get high. They are motivated to survive. Cocaine and heroin will not help them survive. Sugar, which is a food, will. And by the way, our preference for sweet foods is an adaptive trait that helped our ancestors back in the caveman days identify safe, calorie-dense foods. Like if it was sweet, probably had a lot of calories in it, helped them survive more easily. So again, yes, it can feel like an addiction. People have told me, when I'm on sugar, I feel this way. When I'm off sugar, it's all different. But that feeling of sugar addiction is linked to other factors like, resolving stress by eating. It's cultural norms. It's not the substance itself that's inherently addictive. Okay, so when it comes to cutting out sugar, enough of the science. Moving on. When it comes to cutting out sugar for 8 weeks, what happens next can look different for different people. So what happens when you quit sugar extends far beyond the physical results that you might expect. So take Melanie, for example, not her real name. So Melanie cut out sugar for 8 weeks. And she was hoping for a complete body transformation. She was like, I am going to stop eating sugar for 8 weeks. It is going to be amazing. I'm going to look so good. I'm going to feel so good. I'm going to lose so much weight. I'm going to have no bloating. I'm going to on and on. And for a while, she did notice some consistent, higher energy levels. She didn't have the ups and downs that she had when she was eating sugar on a daily basis. But she did not experience the drastic changes that she expected to experience. In fact, by the end of 8 weeks, she felt more frustrated than anything because the physical results didn't match her high expectations. And this is a common experience for a lot of people, just focusing solely on what's going to happen to your body physically can lead to disappointment if you're not addressing the emotional factors behind those cravings for sugar. So Melanie, at first, she felt empowered. She was proud of herself for resisting sugar. There were times when she was like, oh my God, I totally white knuckled it. Just by sheer force of willpower, she did not eat anything with sugar. But after a few weeks, she noticed she couldn't stop thinking about sweets. She was thinking about desserts, candy. She didn't even really eat candy, but she started thinking about candy, cookies, everything. It was always on her mind. She started having dreams in which she was eating sweet food. And it felt like sugar was taunting her. So eventually, of course, that willpower failed, her white knuckling it failed, and she ended up binging on an entire box of cookies in one sitting. And she felt out of control. She felt ashamed. She felt frustrated. She felt all the feelings. I'm sure you can imagine what Melanie felt. Okay, now here's the thing about her life. She had a very demanding job, and before she went on her sugar detox, as she put it, she would have ice cream every night after dinner for basically, dessert. She thought she was addicted, but we really discovered it was not sugar. It was not ice cream. It was about stress relief. Ice cream was her way of coping with the pressure she felt at work. So she was comforting herself with ice cream. And when she quit sugar, she didn't somehow have a new way of coping. She didn't have a new way of comforting herself. So she started thinking all the time about sugary foods. Really, she was thinking about, I need comfort. I need comfort. I need some way of self-soothing. And for her, that was the only way. But once she learned healthier ways to manage stress and to comfort herself and to self-soothe, guess what? Those sugar cravings stopped, right? Just stopped. And let me tell you about someone else. This is Tom, also not his real name. So Tom was always making these late night runs to convenience stores for Hostess ding-dongs, of all things. And at first he thought, he's like, it's just a habit. It's just a bad habit. I've got a sugar habit. I've got a ding-dong habit. Like, right? He really thought he just had like a thing for Hostess ding-dongs and that he was addicted. But of course, what did we do? We did some emotional gardening. We dug deeper, and it became clear that there was a pattern. When did he make these late night runs to 7-Eleven? It was whenever he felt a sense of disconnection or loneliness with his partner. And it turned out that he was getting Hostess ding-dongs. Who named those things? Why are they called ding-dongs? Does anyone know that? Please write me and tell me, or maybe I should look it up. Who names these things? It's like, who names the drugs? That, like, who is like Wegovy? Who Ozempic? Who names these drugs? Sometimes I watch TV and all the the news late at night, all the ads are for like some kind of drug thing, and they all have the weirdest names. There must be someone somewhere who's like coming up with these names. All right, I digress. So he was using ding-dongs essentially to fill an emotional void. He felt lonely in his relationship. He felt disconnected from his partner. There was a void, and it was getting filled with Hostess ding-dongs. He wasn't hungry for sugar. He wanted emotional closeness and intimacy. Sugar was his way of coping with those feelings of isolation, and they become a substitute. Those Hostess cupcakes became a substitute for the comfort, the connection, the closeness, and the intimacy he wasn't getting consistently in his relationship. So this is a common thing, right? Using food to fill emotional gaps. I think I am about to go on my break. Jordan, is my break imminent? Maybe not. Okay. Well, I'll just keep talking then. I guess my break is not imminent. So I'm going to start telling a third person, Rebecca. And if I get cut off and have to go on my break, I get cut off and go to my break. When I come back, I will finish. So here's Rebecca's situation. Okay, so Rebecca did not struggle with emotional eating, but she did have sugar cravings, and she constantly felt guilty for giving in to those sugar cravings. Whenever she had a cookie, she felt like she was failing herself. And this guilt only intensified her cravings because it made sugar like a symbol of rebellion. Like she felt like she was doing something wrong. Oh, 4 minutes? Okay, perfect. She felt like she was doing something wrong and that she was rebelling by eating cookies, right? And then she felt guilty for rebelling. And then when she didn't eat cookies, when she went on her sugar detox, stopped eating sugar, she felt deprived, and this deprivation made her hyper aware of everything she couldn't have. And so she realized this all or nothing approach was not doing it for her. So she started to incorporate some sugary foods into her meals. She started with having a dessert after dinner a couple times a week, or she had a couple of cookies and tea as an afternoon snack. And the more that she did this, the less she started thinking about food. When she told herself that she couldn't have it, she wanted it, right? This is a familiar pattern. I'm sure you can relate to it. The more that she had it, more she had some sugary foods, the less she craved them. And soon her cravings were gone. And she naturally actually started, eating a little bit less, because if you know that you can have it, you can make a decision. You can have it or not have it. So this is an example of how balance is far more sustainable than strict elimination. This only works if you have worked through your why you're turning to food. This only works if it's about the sugary foods. This does not work until you have resolved, like, um, other people in this story, Melissa and Tom, if you have to resolve your hidden why you're turning to food rather than focus on food. You cannot create balance unless you first deal with your why. And that's why I always say it's about why power, not willpower. Got to figure out your why, your emotional why, for why you're turning to food. And if it's to fill an emotional void, you learn new ways of filling those empty spaces within you. If it's to comfort yourself, to soothe yourself, you learn new ways of soothing yourself that don't involve food. But for Rebecca, she was just like, oh, it really was about the deprivation. And so giving herself, instead of all or nothing, I like to say all or nothing is like a black and white world. But we actually live, ideally, in the color between black and white. So that meant balance. Instead of no sugary foods, some sugary foods. So it's not about cutting out sugar entirely. It's about finding a way to enjoy it in a way that feels good to you. So what can you do to create balance and moderation? I'm going to take my break momentarily. And when I come back, I'm going to give you some practical tips, practical strategies on how you can change your attitude about sugar, how you can create some lasting change in terms of your focus on sugar, balance, and moderation. So I will see you in 2 minutes.
All clear, back in 2.
Welcome back to the Binge Cure with Dr. Nina. Now back to the show.
Welcome back to the Binge Cure. I am Dr. Nina, and we are talking about what happens when you quit sugar for 8 weeks. And before the break, we talked about a lot of the things that happen and don't happen, and how much your mindset is more important when it comes to sugar regulation than your brain, and challenging some of the ideas about addiction, even though, yeah, it can feel like a sugar addiction, but what's going on is actually more in your mind than in your body and your brain, and how deprivation can create this almost addiction-like wish, need, drive to have the thing that you tell yourself you cannot have. So now we're going to talk about practical strategies for creating change. What can you do to create some balance and moderation when it comes to eating foods with sugar? So first, normalize that sugar is just another food, right? It's not the enemy, and it is not your best friend. When you allow yourself to have it without judgment, it becomes less powerful. And by the way, when we talk about sugar, we're generally not talking just about sugar. I mean, I've never treated anyone who stayed home eating spoonfuls of sugar out of the sugar jar thing. Or, I've heard people who say they get desperate when they're binging and they have eaten sugar by the spoonful, but generally people don't crave or binge on pure sugar by the tablespoon. They binge on cookies or ice cream or cake or muffins, if we're talking about sweet foods, or chocolate or whatever, right? It's not just sugar, it's sugar in a kind of food. So when you do allow yourself to have sugar without judgment, without telling yourself, I don't should on yourself. I shouldn't have this. When you have it and say, well, Dr. Nina's one food rule is it has to be yummy. Is this yummy? You'd be surprised because I've heard from so many people who they'll say like, oh, I can't stay away from cake. Cake is my downfall. Cake is my personal crack. Like, no, I can't stay away from cake. And then when they realize why they're eating cake and process that and all of that, then they'll go and they'll be offered cake like at a birthday party. And so many of them have said like, yeah, I told myself I would have a piece and I would enjoy it. And then they'll have a piece and then they'll think, this really isn't that good. This isn't as good as I thought it was going to be, right? Because so often when it's the forbidden fruit, the forbidden sugary food, we think it's better than it actually is. Just a little side note. All right, so first, normalize sugar is just another food. Also, just think about what are your true cravings. When you crave sugar, pause and ask yourself, what do you really want in that moment? Maybe you need to relax. Maybe you need comfort, connection. Maybe you're anxious and you need to, calm down. When you identify the underlying need, you can find healthier ways to meet it. Also, challenge the good versus bad mentality. Remember that food doesn't have a moral value. You are not a bad person. You're not being bad for eating a cupcake, nor are you good for avoiding it, nor are you good because you ate, salad instead of cupcakes. So releasing this kind of good, bad mindset can also help you build a more balanced relationship with sugar. Also, cultivate alternate sources of enjoyment and pleasure. Make a list of the things that bring you joy, bring you comfort. And when you feel that craving for something sugary, try one of those activities first. Kind of goes with what are you truly craving? What are you hungry for? What is fun to you? Because if food is fun, if food is the only thing that's fun in your life, guess what? You can't give it up because you can't give up fun. So think about what else is fun for you. What else is enjoyable for you? Make the list. And the next time sugary foods are kind of beckoning to you, look at that list. See what you can do instead. Also, develop self-compassion. Be kind to yourself. If you end up eating a bunch of foods with sugar, instead of beating yourself up, ask yourself, what was I needing in that moment? What was that about? What did I, by the way, there's a difference between having something sugary, like, oh, that's called dessert or a snack, and emotionally eating or binging on it and having a greater quantity that you would normally have. So just like ask yourself, what was going on there? Was I just having dessert or was something deeper going on? Which leads me to the idea of regular self-reflection. Set aside some time each day to check in with yourself. Ask yourself, what am I feeling? Am I stressed? Am I lonely? Am I bored? Am I anxious? And by the way, if you say stressed, what does stress mean to you? Because stress can be a word that we use in different ways. Stress can mean anxious. Stress can mean too busy. Stress can mean different things. So can overwhelmed. Sometimes we use those words as kind of a blanket umbrella term, but it can mean different things. So what are you really, really drill down? What's really going on with you? Are you happy? Are you content? Right? Check in with yourself. Becoming more aware of your emotions can help you identify those patterns in your cravings. Right? Because it's easier to check in. Oh, what am I needing right now? What am I feeling right now? What's really eating at me? Instead of focusing on, I will not eat the cupcakes. I will not eat the ding-dongs. I will not eat the cake or the ice cream or the cookies or the brownies or the whatever or the candy. I will not eat it. I will not eat it. No, instead go like, why do I want to eat it? What's going on with me? What problem will it resolve? Will it comfort me? Will it soothe me? Will it have a sedative effect? Will it symbolically fill the void? Will it make me happy? Is it my friend right now? What's going on? Becoming more interested in your feelings and being able to recognize them will help you in those moments. And also, and this is a practical thing, have a variety of foods. Sometimes, it's really interesting, cravings for sugar can be triggered by monotony. So if you are eating the same thing every day, if you're having your oatmeal with, fruit, and then your salad with tuna, and then your whatever dinner or chicken, or like if it's like it's the same thing every day and it's boring and it's not delicious, you might crave like sugary foods because it breaks the monotony, right? So really incorporate a range of flavors, colors, textures into your meals so you feel more satisfied and you don't feel that sense of monotony. And last, find non-food ways to treat yourself. Often we turn to sugar as a reward. Like what I was talking about earlier, the dentist, of all things, the dentist rewards kids with candy. What is that? That's just creating a clientele that's going to keep coming back to you. I don't know why I have this cavity. No, we are programmed to like think of sugary foods as a reward, right? If you finish your dinner, you can have dessert. It starts then. So instead, create a list of non-food treats. What is a non-food treat to you? Is it going for a walk in nature? Is it watching your favorite guilty pleasure TV show? Oh my God, I am so loving Bad Monkey right now. Talk about a guilty pleasure. Oh, love it, love it. Okay. Just think about like, what is it that you can do, that you can have just for yourself, a list that you can turn to. Is it reading a book? Is it listening to something? Is it just taking a moment and taking a walk? Is it taking a nice relaxing bath? Is it what is it? What's fun to you? Is it talking to your friend? Is it just think about what is it that is fun for you? Make a list. And the next time you need a treat yourself well, instead of having that treat involve something sugary. So one of the most important shifts you can make is to really view sugar cravings as messengers rather than enemies. We tend to resist it. I shouldn't have this craving. I shouldn't have that food. What's wrong with me? I'm a sugar addict. Blah, 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 right? Instead, think of those sugar cravings as if they're trying to tell you something about what you need, what you're feeling, whether that's you need comfort, you need connection, you need excitement, you need relaxation, you need to calm down. Like, what is it? So those cravings are a clue. And I always say, I am a detective of the mind, right? That's what a psychoanalyst is, a detective of the mind. We want to solve the mystery of why you're doing something you don't want to do, like, eat all the cupcakes, or why you're not doing something you want to do, like, go to the gym, or whatever it is. When you listen to those messages, when you respond with compassion, you will find that sugar will lose its grip on you. So this is not about cutting out sugar altogether. It's about discovering what sweetness means to you beyond the world of food. What can you add to your life that brings joy, that brings comfort, gives you a sense of fulfillment, right? What's sweetness to you? Is it spending time with people you love or spending time away from people you love? It can work both ways. Is it like exploring a creative project or just taking time for yourself? Like if we go back to Tom's story, once he realized his cravings for Hostess ding-dongs were actually cravings for connection, he began to shift his focus. Instead of reaching out for those treats, he started connecting more with his partner. They planned dates together. The partner had no idea he was feeling this way, by the way. They had different ideas of what closeness is, as some people do. I remember I had a friend who, when I was leaving work, she knew my schedule, and she would call me like 3 times a week or more, just check in. How was your day? Perfectly nice. But to me, it was like I got off work, I got in the car, and then I had to talk to her about my day. I talked to her more than I talked to my husband about my day. And one day she said, I just don't feel like we're as close as we could be. We never talk. I said, what are you talking about? We never talk. We talk 3 times a week. And she said, I know. I mean, like, to have a close friend, like, you should be talking every day. Right? So people have different ideas about what closeness is. So Tom's partner had no idea that he felt this way. So once he knew, because people aren't mind readers, right? You got to know. Once they knew the problem, they planned dates. They got off their devices at night, right? Their home became a device-free zone for a few hours a night. They had deeper conversations. This was fulfilling to him, to Tom, right? Fulfilling, so he didn't need the fulfillment of stuffing himself with a bunch of Hostess ding-dongs. And what do you think happened? Guess what? He stopped making those runs to the convenience store because he was actually satisfying his real need, which was emotional intimacy. And Melissa, by realizing that sugar was not like the enemy, it wasn't the villain in her life, it wasn't something she was supposed to avoid because it was bad and toxic and terrible. And by giving herself permission to eat it with moderation and find other ways of comforting herself, coming off of the intensity of her job, being able to have that bridge between getting off work and being all like frustrated and upset and tense, and being able to calm down in ways other than using sugar in the form of ice cream. She found a sense of freedom and balance and stopped worrying about this all the time. So this allowed her to have ice cream without guilt. No longer felt like this forbidden thing. No longer was it a daily thing, but she didn't feel guilty when she had it. So consider, what are you truly hungry for? By the way, I just want to, before we wrap up, which we still have a little bit of time, someone on my YouTube channel, which, by the way, if you're not on my YouTube channel, please follow me there. I post videos, almost every day. It's called the Binge Eating Cure with Dr. Nina, or maybe just the Binge Eating Cure. Someone posted on one of my videos, I thought women craved chocolate before their period because of the calcium. By the way, this is a guy, right? I thought women craved chocolate before their period because of the calcium or something else that's in it. And my answer was that this connection between chocolate and your menstrual cycle has been shown to be more psychological than biological. Studies of women who live in countries where chocolate is not seen as comforting don't crave chocolate. We all have the same hormones, right? But because there's a different cultural connotation to chocolate, they don't have the same cravings for it. I think that's Spain, or I think it's Spain, maybe Brazil. I don't know. I have to source myself, but I believe it's Spain, where there's just not that sense of, hey, are you, here's chocolate. It's love. It'll make you feel good. It's great. They don't have that cultural connection. And so actually women do not have those kinds of cravings. They're women. They have the same hormones, but that just shows how what we feel is really a physical craving is more of a psychological craving because how we have been programmed. So, again, as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this thought. I want to give you some food for thought, which is, what are you truly hungry for in your life? When you reach for something with sugar, take a moment and ask yourself, what is it do you really need or want? What is it that you're hungry for? Is it comfort after a stressful day? Is it I said Melissa. I meant Melanie. Yeah, Melanie. Is it a sense of connection when you're feeling lonely, like Tom? Maybe it's a little bit of excitement when life feels dull, right? Because often, if food is fun and you're not having fun in your life, guess what? You're going to eat something fun. So by exploring these deeper needs, these deeper wants, the symbolism between these between the cravings for chocolate, what does it really mean versus the idea that chocolate's the problem? No, chocolate, cookies, whatever it is with sugar, it is the solution to the problem. It is not the problem. But often we go so quickly to food, we don't even know what the problem is. And that's where I challenge you to dig deep. Like I say, we do emotional gardening. We're going to get to the root of your why. Why are you turning to this particular food? What is going on with you? So what truly happens when you cut out sugar for 8 weeks? Well, physically, not a heck of a lot, actually. And emotionally, cutting out sugar for 8 weeks or even 8 days, sometimes 8 hours, can just make you want sugary foods even more. So instead of eliminating sugar, consider your relationship with it and discover how to bring more sweetness into your life in non-food ways. And you will find that you will make peace with food, make peace with sugar, and you've got a lot more on your mind, don't you, than what it is that you're eating or not eating, right? It's amazing when you imagine what you can think of when you're not thinking about food all the time. No? If you were not thinking about food, if you were not thinking about dessert, or even, it doesn't have to be sugary foods. If you just weren't thinking about food, what would be on your mind? And sometimes the answer to that is the clue as to why you're thinking about it, because it can be easier to think about what you are eating or not eating than what's eating at you. But remember, you are brave. You are courageous. You have done hard things in your life. You have overcome things. You can face painful, difficult thoughts and feelings and work through them and feel better. You really can. So again, thank you so much for joining me today on the Binge Cure. If this episode resonates with you, by the way, I would love to hear your thoughts. Please feel free to reach out to me on social media or my YouTube channel. I guess that's social media. Is it? Is that technically social media? I'm not sure. Share your own experiences. Let me know if there's anything else that you would like me to explore. And if you know someone who might benefit from this conversation, please share this episode with them. And remember, it is not about cutting out sugar. It is about finding ways to satisfy your hunger for joy, connection, purpose, and meaning in life, right? So that is it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm wishing you a sweet week ahead. Bye for now.
All clear. Great show.
Thank you.